What am I trying to say? Probably nothing else. Okay, one more time. Hey guys, my name is Kelly. Today I am so excited to be sharing my first thrift flip video with you, and these flips are going to be related to home decor and just like simple things that you could easily recreate. I want to preface this by saying that I did originally have 3 flips in this video, but I had to take one of them out just because I didn't feel like the clips I got were super clear and my footage didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. So I wanted to get your preference on whether or not you would prefer me to wait and share that in a future video when I have some more ideas to throw in with it, or if you would like to see a reel of how to do that thrift flip on my Instagram. I'm planning on recreating it, and I wasn't sure where I should share it. So I could get it out sooner if I do it as a reel, because it would just be a standalone flip, or I could wait until I have more content and do a larger thrift flip video as well. So let me know if you have a preference. I would love to hear it. I've actually never done reels on Instagram, so I'm really excited to eventually be venturing into that either way. So let's just jump right in and share the first flip with you guys. Alright, you guys, so for this first project, we're going to be doing a texture paint technique on this vase. I love the shape of the vase, but I don't love the color, and I think that's the biggest thing to look for if you're wanting to upcycle something into something like this, is just to go for something that's a really unique shape. So I've mixed up some paint in a color that I like, and I'm going to be mixing about 1:2 ratio of baking powder to paint. I would say you could probably get away with a little bit less baking powder, and you also could use baking soda for this, so just experiment and see what you like best. The baking powder definitely foams up more, and the baking soda doesn't foam up as much, but it gives a similar effect. I will say I did have some cracking with this baking powder, and I didn't have that happen when I've used baking soda, so I'm not sure if it's because of that or because I put the layers on too thick, but just keep that in mind that that might happen. And you'll see that a little bit later in the video. So here I'm just painting on my first coat. I use a foam brush, but you can use whatever kind of brush you have. And here in a second, my grandma's going to walk in and start asking me about what I'm doing, and I go through a little bit of my plans for what I'm doing next. And it's just too cute to cut out, so I wanted to share it with you. And if I'm talking really loud, it's because she's slightly hard of hearing, so I wanted you guys to be able to hear what she was saying, so I didn't cut the audio down too low, but I just wanted to let you guys know in advance that that's what's going to be happening.
What you doing?
I am painting a vase.
Making a vase.
Yeah, I'm painting it. It was like a bright green color.
Yeah.
And I didn't love the color of it, so I'm painting it with this mixture it's paint mixed with baking powder.
Uh-huh.
And it's supposed to make like a really textured paint.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm interested to see how it turns out. I'm going to have to do another coat, but
Yeah.
I'm hoping it looks good when I'm done.
Where's Tease?
She's working outside in the yard.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh. That's going to be pretty.
Thanks. I've seen this technique where people they actually rub dirt on the paint after they finish it, and it adds more dimension, and then they brush off the excess dirt afterwards.
Uh-huh.
Sounds kind of weird, but I think I might do that on this too.
Gee, that's...
I'll show you if I do that what it looks like.
Okay. Well, you do look really unusual and really nice looking things.
Thanks. Alright, so I just finished my first coat, and I'm having a little chat with Giggy while I let it dry, and I went on to do my second coat off camera. So I definitely recommend 2 coats, as I said before, but just go with your gut and see what works best for you. This is very much a project where you just kind of see how it goes. So here's how it turned out after both coats were dry, and now I'm going to move on to be doing that mud technique that I mentioned when I was talking to Giggy. And the only other time I've seen this done, it's been on top of black paint. So this is kind of my take on it. I thought it might be interesting to do it on top of a lighter colored paint. And I'm using red clay. That's the type of dirt that's just where my parents live. That's what kind of dirt is in their yard. So I thought it might give kind of a warmer, more terracotta-y look to it. And I'm really excited about how it turned out. So first I painted on a more wet mud, I guess, and then I poured off the excess water and painted it on a bit thicker. I just wanted to go with the thinner paint at first so that it would seep into all the cracks. Here's how it looked after I painted on that thicker mixture. And then now I'm going to move on to brushing off the excess. I actually had some of the paint on the bottom of the vase chip off while doing this, and that shouldn't happen to you. The only reason that happened is because I was rushing this project and I left the vase resting on parchment paper to dry, so that prevented the paint from coming off of the vase onto the parchment paper, but because it was always resting on that surface and never fully cured or fully dried, so just make sure yours is dry before you do this step. But I did touch it up later with just some paint. And after this, it was done, and I'm so excited about how it turned out. I have a little sneak peek of it in the attic makeover I did for my parents, and I ended up leaving it there. So I'm definitely going to be doing this again for my own space because I think it looks really cool. So for the second project, we wanted to go ahead and make some tabletops for this set of furniture that my mom and I bought off Facebook Marketplace. I shared it in my last thrift haul. If you haven't seen it already, I would definitely recommend checking it out because that video was a good one. And I wanted to do something that would give kind of a vibe similar to cane. I really love the look of cane tabletops and bench tops, but cane can be very expensive, and normally for a tabletop we'd probably need to cover it with tempered glass, and that's also very expensive. So I went with something a little bit different, but I think it gives the same vibe. Obviously no one will mistake it for cane, but that's not really the point. I just wanted to do something that would be a similar feeling. And so I started with some burlap in a color that I liked. It comes in lots of different colors, so you can do any color that you would want in your space. And I have Mod Podge here, a paintbrush, and canvas panels. I chose canvas panels because they happen to come in the exact same size as the tabletop, but I will say that they weren't quite as strong as I thought they would be in the long run. So I ended up making them work, and I talk more about that in the outro, but I would recommend going with a different product, and that's another thing that I'll discuss then. So here I'm just painting on the Mod Podge onto my surface. I'm going to be applying the burlap in just a second, and then you'll want to do another coat of Mod Podge over top of the burlap, being careful to get it in all the nooks and crannies and just making sure it's really fully covered and sealed. I will say I wish I had not used the outdoor Mod Podge because it's a lot thicker and the fumes are a lot stronger than regular Mod Podge. I thought that it would help with durability, but I ended up going in with a spray top coat later because this Mod Podge stays very tacky even once it's dry. So I would recommend just using regular Mod Podge and then going in with a spray top coat like I did. But I will say another reason not to use the outdoor Mod Podge is just because it takes 4 weeks to fully cure, so you should wait 4 weeks to do that top coat if you're going to use this product. And I actually did my top coat after about a week, and it seems to be fine, but just use your best judgment. And regular Mod Podge is also less expensive, so use whatever you want, but that would just be my advice. So here I'm folding over the edges. I ended up trimming the corners, as you can see, in order to make it fold over more flat and clean. So I'd recommend trimming them like that, and then you just apply the back side much like you did the front. I also just want to say that if you're planning to apply a spray top coat like I did, which I do recommend for durability, that you look for something that won't yellow your project. I ended up using a spray coat that did yellow my burlap a little bit, and actually in this first reveal, that's before I applied the top coat. So you see it one way, and then later on in the outro, I'll show you what it looks like now. I don't think this would matter if you're not concerned about it being yellowed, but I just think in the space I put it in, having the top be so yellow in contrast to the base of the table as well as in contrast to the other things in the space, I wish that I had just known in advance that could happen. So I just wanted to give you guys all the information possible. So once you're done folding over the corners, you're finished and you can apply this top to your table. Like I said, I did end up adding some more structure to mine later on, and I give more details on that, but I love how they look, and I think it's such an easy way to update a piece of furniture. Alright you guys, I hope you enjoyed seeing those thrift flips. I wish I had more to share in this video, but I definitely have more coming soon. And I do want to go ahead and give you guys some tips if you choose to recreate these. The first one would be, as I mentioned, I definitely had too much baking soda in my paint. It bubbled up a little bit too much, and I do think that caused part of the cracking, but I don't actually dislike how it turned out. So if you like that look, you could try to recreate what I did, or if you'd prefer it to not be as crackly, you could either use less baking soda or baking powder rather is what I used, or you could go the baking soda route, which I've done before and I didn't have any cracking. So I think that in the future I would choose baking soda, but like I said, I just didn't have that on hand when I filmed this. And I also wanted to say I would definitely recommend going with 1/4-inch plywood for a tabletop if you choose to recreate something similar to those burlap tabletops. To me, it gives kind of a cane look, which I think is really cool. It's obviously not the same as cane, but to me it has the same kind of vibe. and I love how they turned out, but I would say that 1/4 inch plywood would be a lot sturdier. Unless you have a table that has a lot of structure underneath, you should definitely go with something a little bit thicker. I really did think that the canvas panels would be a good sturdy option, and they do have quite a bit of strength to them, but I just think 1/4 inch plywood would work better, and that's actually what I ended up using for the coffee table that matches those tables, and it did work really well. And the only reason I used the canvas panels to begin with was that they were the exact same size as the opening, and I would actually say if you're going to do something like this, you should make it a little bit bigger than the opening so that it overlaps with the edges of the table more, like where the wood is or whatever material the table is made out of. Because if you make it the exact same size as the opening, when you're looking down on it standing, you're actually going to still see a little bit of a gap between the table and the top of the table and the edge. So I actually ended up adding some trim to the edges of the table in order to cover that up a little bit, and it also added some structure because I attached it to all the edges of the top really well, and this is how that turned out. And so that is one way that I was able to combat that, but I would say, like I said, using the 1/4 inch plywood would be definitely a good way to add structure and also prevent any bowing or anything like that, and then having it overlap just a little bit bigger than your opening measurement would be a great way to go. Alright guys, thank you for being here. I hope you enjoyed these thrift flips. If you haven't yet subscribed or are new here, please consider subscribing. And if you would like to give some input on whether or not you would like a reel versus waiting for another thrift flip video for that other flip, I would love to hear it. Thanks again for being here, and I'll see you next time. Bye.